billions right out of the gate with a B. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. Billions of dollars. There's really nothing like it that I can think of other than sports, where you just see massive amounts of money and swings in power and this kind of thing that happen in such a short span of time. I mean, if that doesn't get you excited as a football fan to say, what the hell, how's that possible? Then I don't know what will. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is diving into that money. Who got paid what and where did they go is really the theme of today's video. Welcome in and welcome back to Hybrid Studios and to the Coliseum. My name is Logan Hyder. I appreciate you for being here today. Today, in particular, I'm going to give you guys an applause, the audience. You, beautiful soul who is watching this video right now. If you've joined me in the middle of this, or if you started with episode 1, I just have to congratulate us as a team, as a group, for making it to episode 25 and to the first NFL offseason that we've covered here on Hybrid Studios. The NFL offseason, when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft, when it comes to obviously trades that are made as a part of all of that, is probably my favorite time of the year when it comes to the NFL. There is obviously a ton of intrigue when it comes to actual on-the-field games. That's what we're here for ultimately. But this part of the year where the teams are built, where decisions are made, where guys' futures are at stake in a big way and are solidified, whenever you look back on it, when you look at Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles from the Giants type of deal, when obviously there's 1,000 examples just over the last couple of years of fates that were sealed during this time of the year. On the flip side of that, though, you have tons of fan bases, more so than any other time of the year, that have hope, that are looking forward to the season. They haven't had any catastrophic injuries. They're not starting out 0-3 with no hope of actually going anywhere this season. Everybody has a shot right now because we're right here in the beginning. So free agency provides a spark and a totally different lens to look at the NFL and to look at football from. And then you have the draft, which we are going to be doing right on the heels of this. There is too much to talk about free agency wise to be able to do that today. Excuse me. A little DPZ, a little nectar of the gods. I realized that whenever I was prepping this video pretty quickly that I was not going to be able to do the scouting combine or any draft coverage with the free agency here because there's just too much to cover. So we will be doing draft coverage in our first of multiple draft videos after this episode. But before we get to episode 26 or 27, let's focus in today on the Coliseum episode 25. Again, thank you guys for all the support that you showed on episodes 1 through 25. If you are just now joining us, then welcome. And if you are a return viewer, then please consider subscribing or sharing the channel with somebody who may enjoy it. And if you get through this video as a first-time viewer and enjoyed it and found it informative or entertaining or any of the things that we try to bring to the table, please also consider subscribing and sharing. And I'm going to shut up with the intro now because we have plenty, and I mean plenty, to get to. But we are going to get the blood flowing with 3 warm-up topics as we always do. Just some kind of basic info and updates from some different teams around the league, including the Super Bowl champion Seahawks, who we left off with last time. So a great place to start being the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are also a great, I suppose, business opportunity for somebody. And if you're watching this and you're in the market for that kind of thing, then, first of all, what's happening right now? Either you or I should be doing something different if you're watching me. But anyways, fresh off of a Super Bowl championship, I should say, the Seattle Seahawks are for sale. The estate of Paul G. Allen announced today being 4 weeks ago, has commenced a formal sale process for the Seattle Seahawks NFL franchise. The NFL owners will then have to ratify a final purchase agreement once it is agreed upon, and it is expected to set a new record for a sports franchise. All the comments are talking about the things that people would give for it, like $5 in a pack of gum. My go-to is like $50 in a taco coupon. Best I can do is $5 in store credit. So yeah, if anybody out there is listening, you know what I mean? If you're into that kind of thing, you're welcome. Just send me a little kickback from that deal. Seattle, if we send you somebody via Hybrid Studios, could you imagine? The next thing that I wanted to touch on very quickly is the Indiana Bears, which they will be very soon, and I'm not kidding. The Bears are leaving Chicago. The Chicago Bears are leaving Chicago. We're gonna get some comparisons in just a second, but I do want to play this really quickly.
All right, keep a straight face here. The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And
is that a John Cena thing you did? What's happening here? Hold on. Did he know that was a thought that he said out loud? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Johnson.
Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And I've said repeatedly that the door is always open for conversations, and Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect, and I still firmly believe that their best position is in Chicago, and it's evidence. The evidence is clearly speaking for itself. Okay. All right, keep a straight face here.
Not the best clip that I've ever seen, context-wise, or just like what, I don't even know what that was, to be totally clear. But apparently this was something that had been negotiated for several years. The Bears tried to work out a deal with the Illinois government for 5 years and got nowhere. The Indiana government got one done in 2 months. There's a statement. Whoops. Always like and post out here. There's a statement. Here we go. Indiana's governor tweeted this after taking the Bears away from Chicago. Indiana is open for business, and our pro-growth environment continues to attract major opportunities like this partnership with the Chicago Bears. We've identified a promising site near Wolf Lake and Hammond and established a broad framework for negotiating a final deal. The state of Indiana moves at the speed of business was a quote that I loved. At the speed of business? I think I've seen that in an AT&T commercial. Actually, like literally. Sorry, the governor of Indiana dunking on the city of Chicago using the phrase, the state of Indiana moves at the speed of business, is just incredible. And we've demonstrated that through our quick coordination with state agencies, local government, and the legislature to set the stage. Do I know how to read or not? And we've demonstrated that through our quick coordination between state agencies, local governments, and the legislature to set the stage for a huge win for all Hoosiers. That sentence doesn't make sense, correct? Or anyways, for all Hoosiers. Hoosiers. If Indiana's not on a fucking hot streak right now, as a state, just in general, I mean, the national championship, and then you take the Bears from Chicago, crazy shit. The Bears finally get a franchise QB, then move to a different state. All jokes aside, a pretty big deal. I mean, the Bears are expected to announce their intentions to build their stadium in Northwest Indiana. The Chicago Bears have officially agreed to relocate to Northwest Indiana. I mean, that is the case. All the comments over here, you'll notice, talk about how basically it appears that the ownership wanted the taxpayers to fund the stadium, which I could not know less about as far as, ultimately the politics behind why this happened, or whether a city, and taxpayers should pay for the new stadium versus the owner. Nashville had their own situation with that for several years, obviously, and now they are getting that stadium built. I'm actually not sure off the top of my head what the payment breaks down to as far as who it's on. I probably should as a responsible citizen, but I definitely do not. But at the end of the day, the Bears are not in Chicago anymore, and there's a couple comments. There was one over here somewhere that I saw that said like it's only 20 miles away, but like, okay, well, it's not in Chicago. That's 20 miles. Like, that's not a short distance if your point is that, well, they're still basically in Chicago. It's like, well, 20 miles is not really basically in Chicago still. I mean, if I don't have my phone on me right now, let's see, how far away is downtown from me right now? So from where I'm sitting to downtown Nashville is like 28 miles. There are several full towns, borderline small cities, that are between here and Nashville. Where I'm sitting is not Nashville. If you go one exit down, let's say 8 miles, if it's actually 20 miles, where's that breakdown? Yeah, so they're still closer to Chicago than the Patriots are to Boston. The Patriots also aren't called the Boston Patriots. That's a dumb comparison. Yeah, exactly. New York Jets and Giants play in New Jersey. Washington Commanders play in Landover, Maryland. The list goes on. All true examples of teams that play outside of the city that they're technically named for. However, none of them were moved in this way. This is pretty crazy. I mean, so here's actually, look at there's the map. I mean, they're pointing at Indianapolis there, obviously. So Chicago is here. If they're going to be in Northwest Indiana, I don't know the actual location, but you're talking somewhere over here. I mean, but it's not in Chicago anymore, and the team is named Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty specific that they're in that city, and their shit's not going to be, their stadium's not going to be there. They are the Indiana Bears. That's crazy. That's crazy. Another franchise with big news would be the aforementioned Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans officially have unveiled their new uniforms. Our Titans of Tennessee, as I suppose we're supposed to refer to them now, and are being referred to in some places with the new rebranding, which is, it's an interesting way to look at it. And overall, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I'm going to let this video play in the background. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because we did talk about this quite a bit in the last episode when the pretty reliable leaks were put out there, and in particular the logo was for sure definitely leaked and confirmed, which really gave us a sense of the colors and the scheme that they were going to go for. They also, when we talked about it then, we talked about how they were going to get rid of the Greek mythology and that kind of thing. At a glance, Cam Ward's helmet does not fit on his head. Right? Anyways, so we talked about this quite a bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it because they are roughly what we covered as far as the way that they look, using the light blue with the accents of the red, which I really like. As I mentioned before, I love the light blue. I always loved the Oilers alternates, and the light blue I think should be our primary color. And I love the red accent as well. As I mentioned, they never really used the red a whole lot before, which I always thought was a mistake. I actually thought that they should put a actual red jersey out as well. The T, as we mentioned in the last episode, I could go either way on, and that's kind of how I feel about the uniforms in general. I like them in a vacuum. I like them. I've had quite a bit of time to think about them and look at them at this point. On one hand, they're very, very different and almost like going to take some getting used to. On the other hand, they're not overly creative, in my opinion. The getting rid of the Greek mythology thing goes against a statement that I heard them say where they put the new logo up against like all 32 other logos in the NFL and found it to be, striking and something that popped and was different, which is great. And, I don't deny that. I've seen it on the ticker at the bottom of NFL Network, and it definitely does stick out. It definitely does. There's a lot of, like, I'm looking at the Chiefs, that's a darker red. Then you got the Broncos, that's a darker navy with the darker orange. You got the Patriots with the darker blue, the Seahawks with a darker blue. So that light blue really does pop. And I like that. I like the color in general. That's like my favorite color just at all. I mean, shit, I'm wearing an old, what's now a retro Titans hat, right? In the light blue because it is my favorite color just in general and my favorite colorway that the Titans utilize. So I'm all for the color scheme. The rebranding, I don't know that I love. And there's just something about them that I'm not blown away by. I don't know how else to say it, but that. I don't know if that makes any sense. But, looking at these two side by side, it's like they're better, I think. They are an improvement from these. I really, really had some kind of love-hate going on with the font on these. Like that just doesn't look like a one to me. It's a weird font. I like that font definitely better. I definitely don't think that they're, again, I don't know, maybe when I get used to, I like them. Like if I really don't know. I just cannot get a feel for like when I think about them. I like them a lot. Again, on one hand, I love them, and they are the Oilers jerseys that I will, like, I'm thinking about Madden, for example. I always use the Titans in my franchise, and I regularly will just wear the Oilers jerseys, just wear the light blue ones because I love them. I love that uniform combo. I like them. They're cool. They look good. They're clean. They're simple. They're a little bit too minimalistic for me. I think that there could have been some more creative things done with them. The 6-string guitar stripe on the top, I really could do without. The references to just like the music industry and that kind of thing, I just really could do without, to be honest, as a Nashville native. But I get it, and aesthetically, regardless of whether that's what that is or not, it looks good. I really like this navy blue tri-star patch that they put right here on the neck, and then putting that stripe on the sleeves. I don't mind. Again, color scheme A+. Graphics and rebranding and getting rid of the Greek mythology theme, I'm not a huge fan of. And I don't know, they're just kind of plain to me. I like the color. I like the primary color. I like the secondary color. I think that the font is great, I guess. It's fine. There's just something about them that just does not do it for me. And I really don't know what it is. I think that they'll be really pretty on the field, though. And I like them. It's the weirdest thing. It's like, I wish that I could give a better take than that, but I really don't know how I feel about them. Like, what I will tell you, though, is that the white ones drive me crazy. I haven't really seen anybody say this, but the away jerseys, I really just don't like. Especially the all white ones. My take is crystallizing. The home ones, I do like. I do like those a lot. The logo itself, I'm really go back and forth on. The away ones, I do not like. You're telling me that those two jerseys aren't the fucking same thing? Look at this. Look at this. It's almost identical, is it not? Yeah, it's the Bills uniforms in light blue. Like pretty, I mean, they're pretty similar, brother. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I like them. I don't love them. I think that they could have been a lot more creative with it. And to the point that I think that they probably just didn't want to be. I think that they wanted to keep it minimalistic. I think that they wanted to, I think that they wanted it like this. Because there's just not a whole lot of thinking outside of the box that went on here. But alas, I digress. They did not call me and ask what my opinion was. So that being said, we are going to move into the big portion of our video today, which is beautifully free agency. I prepped this video a few days ago, but there hasn't really been any big names that have been signed since then. So most of this stuff, aside from Jalen Waddle's contract, is current. But nearly $6 billion in contracts were awarded in the beginning of free agency since Monday, the week of the 9th, free agency having started on Monday and Tuesday. That week, NFL teams spent a record $5.83 billion in player compensation, including $2.5 billion guaranteed at signing. This is up from last year's $4.88 billion and $2.19 billion over the same period before Jalen Waddle's contract, and really without any crazy QB contracts, as this guy points out over here as well. Yeah, so when we said at the beginning of this video that there are huge, gigantic ramifications from the decisions that are made at this time of the year and huge money spent, I mean, billions, right out of the gate with a B. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. There's really nothing like it that I can think of other than sports, where you just see massive amounts of money and swings in power and this kind of thing that happen in such a short span of time. I mean, if that doesn't get you excited as a football fan to say, what the hell, how's that possible? Then I don't know what will. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is diving into that money. Who got paid what and where did they go is really the theme of today's video. Starting out where we were just at with the Titans, are in the middle of cooking. Can't wait to see what they're going to do in the draft, but in free agency, my lord, are they not remaking this franchise to be in their image? We got the now retro logo on my boy Robert Saleh there. The Tennessee Titans, under their new head coach Robert Saleh and OC Brian Daboll, are cooking so far this offseason to start their rebuild. They've already signed wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, 4 years, $70 million. Right out of the gate, I have to say, I don't know about that one. This seems like a classic overpay. I mean, 4 years, $70 million. I mean, the top of the wide receiver market just got set yesterday with Jackson Smith-Njigba, who got 4 years, $168. So, I mean, from that perspective, I guess, obviously that's a steal. But Wan'Dale Robinson is who our big wide receiver signing is. I don't know if that's all we end up with. I'm not sure that we've really done a whole lot to improve our wide receiver room there. And he's certainly not a wide receiver one. It's not like he's, that guy now, which a lot of people are kind of wanting him to be. See this picture right here. I don't know that Wan'Dale Robinson is going to, if he checks that box. Good player, but defensive tackle John Franklin Myers, absolute dog. That's a great pairing with Jeffrey Simmons. Then we remake the secondary with corner Alontae Taylor, who played at Tennessee, 3 years, $60 million. Corner Cordero Flott, 3 years, $45 million. Signed tight end Daniel Bellinger, 3 years, $24 million. A lot of these players pay, and then we signed another corner down here, another D tackle down there. We got new center Austin Schlottman, 2 years, $9 million. New offensive guard Cordell Volson, just a 1 year deal on that one. Obviously, some other smaller moves have been made since then as well. But one thing that's interesting about these moves is that a lot of them played for either Robert Saleh in New York or Brian Daboll in New York, and the Jets and the Giants are not exactly the picture of success when it comes to anything, really. So don't know about that. I mean, the Daboll and Saleh hirings together, I love. But bringing all the players from the Jets and the Giants, I mean, there's talent on every team. Again, Wan'Dale Robinson is better than the Giants. But I don't know about that particular part of the strategy. But overall, I really like it. And I think it sets the Titans up perfectly to do whatever they want in the draft. I mean, people are remarking that they may take Jeremiah Love, and you can kind of do that whenever you set yourself up like this. There's still some cap room that needs to be cleared up with Tony Pollard, for example, who I wouldn't mind getting rid of if they were to go the Jeremiah Love route. They signed Julius Chestnut as a third running back, which I kind of makes me think more so that they're going to go Jeremiah Love, but quite a few interesting moves there. But moving away from the Titans, a team that made possibly more interesting moves than anybody else would be the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, early on in the process, Miami released Tyreek Hill, who is recovering from his dislocated knee and torn ACL. They ultimately released as well Bradley Chubb, who is 29, recorded 47 tackles, 24 solos, 8 TFLs, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery in 17 starts this past season. Really not that bad, but it saves Miami 7.3 in cap room while taking a $23.8 million cap in dead hit money. $23.8 million in dead money. That's Jalen Waddle. Then they released Tua, who is an NFL record $99 million cap hit. And as Rock Boy Mel says over here, imagine how much they gotta hate you to pay you $100 million and still want you off of the team. Oh God, that's crazy. Post June 1 designation. 99 million in dead cap. Wow, which if you're not aware means that basically that's money that they have to pay him that they can't use. There's nothing they can do about it. Once they released him, that's dead money. It's just not available to them. Period. Then we're just going to kind of go into this happened into the domino effect from I wanted to touch on the Titans because they made a bunch of kind of singularly interesting moves and I like kind of where they're going, and we were talking about the rebranding and stuff, but the Dolphins is a great place to start when it comes to the dominoes and as they begin to fall here, how it all kind of connects together. So you had them releasing those couple players that we mentioned, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb. Tua was a huge one that they released. Tua then goes, domino effect, to the Atlanta Falcons, who have Michael Penix already, who they drafted right after they signed Kirk Cousins to like $184 million guaranteed. He's now a free agent. Penix tore his ACL again. That was his main thing, was health issues and health concerns. He's already torn his ACL again. Then they signed Tua, who, how do I put this delicately? I was pretty convinced I was going to watch die on the field at different points in his career. Falcons fans going from a QB with tendons made of old rubber bands to a QB with scrambled eggs and cheese as a brain. Look at this picture. Why do they do? Oh. Falcons Super Bowl odds surged from 1.05% to 1.15% after signing Tua. Unbelievable. What did that say? The Falcons getting a backup for Michael Penix by signing Michael Penix with 4 concussions and 3 additional birthdays. 3 additional birthdays is a crazy way to say that he's older. The Atlanta Falcons after seeing an immobile left-handed quarterback with major health ailments. That's so funny. Are these all just about these two motherfuckers? Like, this is like 20 slides deep. The Atlanta Falcons QB room risk of injury severe. This is insane. Entire Miami Marlins team payroll is $67 million. Tua's dead cap hit is $99 million. How is that fucking possible? Actually, goodbye, sweet prince. I'll never forget the 70-point game against the Broncos, even if you might. Okay, yeah. Wow. Tua, his brain hurts. Okay, we get it, I think. What's going on here? Okay. And I've ever known. And we're in the streets. Yeah, this is pretty rough, actually. This is a rough collection of jerseys to have, and that's coming from a Titans fan. This is up there. This is up there. Should have had the middle finger out at the end. That would have made that. But yeah, Tua. This really is kind of my point that I'm making with the Dolphins, except for Ryan Fitzpatrick's been gone for a while. But Tyreek Hill, Chubb, literally his entire roster of jerseys just got cut in the last week or two. This. I got to show you this too. Do you realize how sorry your career has to be for your team to list 4 times team captain as the resounding accomplishment on your thank you graphic? The Dolphins, this is the Dolphins posted this. Thank you to Tagovailoa. 6 seasons, which is like already a weird way to start. I mean, it's not even that long. 4-time team captain. He wasn't even the team captain the first 2 years, which that also points out. That's rough. I mean, we actually talked about, I think, on the channel before that QBs generally get, they're just kind of given team captainship. And if they're not, it's kind of a bad sign right out of the gate. And then to put one-time Pro Bowler, highest completion percentage and passer rating in franchise history is in the very, very tiny bottom left corner. Whoever did this is not a fan of Tua Tagovailoa. This should have been at the top or in way. I don't know what is happening here. That's rough. Breaking Tua Tagovailoa and Publix have agreed to terms on a 2-year, $20 per hour deal. Tua's gonna be so bummed when they tell him this again tomorrow. Oh my God. Oh Lord. Yeah, so Tua getting absolutely dragged. Overall, the Dolphins ended up with, look at this list. This is crazy. The Miami Dolphins are paying over $175 million in 2026 dead money to players that no longer play for their franchise. Tua Tagovailoa, over $50 million. Well, that's 90. I don't know what that's 99. Look, Terry Armstead, Zach Wilson, they're still playing for what? Jonnu Smith oh my God. This is crazy. Absolutely. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. They have a whole new organization down there as well. This is, again, why this is so interesting, because they can burn all of this stuff because it's a totally new situation. You got a new GM, a new head coach. We talked about the vicious cycle that teams go through as well, where, you bring in a new GM, you bring in a new head coach, they want their guy at quarterback. There was a quarterback there already. They oftentimes don't really get a fair shake with the new guy because the new guy just ultimately doesn't want them because they're not their guy. So unless they're just over the moon good, and we're talking about young quarterbacks here, not like stepping into an established quarterback situation, a Cam Ward type. Robert Saleh probably took that job because of Cam Ward, but if Cam Ward were to not work out, probably you would move on from Cam Ward before you would move on from Robert Saleh, and you would let Robert Saleh take his own guy. That's not the situation that the Titans are in, I don't think, but that's kind of what ends up happening. And then Robert Saleh in that situation, right, if that were to happen, and it does all the time, if that were to happen, Robert Saleh says, I want to get my own guy. They draft the quarterback who's young. It takes him a couple years. Well, by the time that Robert Saleh has drafted that guy, he's in the Titans organization for a couple of years. Takes a little bit, unless they hit on the quarterback immediately, it takes a little bit for the quarterback to develop. At this point, as a fan base, you're tired of Robert Saleh because it's 3 or 4 years in. He goes, now you bring in a new guy who now starts the process again because that was Robert Saleh's QB that he steps into the situation with. And you get into this cycle with quarterbacks, coaches, and GMs. And the other thing about that situation is that those 3 roles are typically pretty tied together. The coach and the quarterback, the GM and the coach. These are people that are very intimately selected hires that are very, very much so tethered to each other forever moving forward. And so a lot of times you see the repercussions of that, again, be a domino effect. The Dolphins then ultimately bring in, to try to get their guy, Malik Willis. The overall consensus number 1 QB available goes to the Miami Dolphins. Who is this? Greg Rosenthal at NFL.com says, I see him as the most dynamic QB in football as a runner, and his tape in Green Bay showed incredible growth as a passer over 2 years with Matt LaFleur. Despite his limited sample size, Willis jumped to the top spot on this ranking based on the same logic that applies to the NFL draft. If a potential franchise QB is enough to be ranked in the top 5 of a list like this, then he should be placed first by virtue of the position. The ceiling is the roof. That's funny. So Malik Willis, after 6 career starts, ultimately signs a $67.5 million contract with the Miami Dolphins. Miami made a major change to the position after releasing Tua Tagovailoa, handing the keys of the offense to Willis. The quarterback has 6 career starts and showed flashes of potential when he stepped in for Jordan Love with the Packers last season. Now Willis arrives with a $67.5 million contract and a massive opportunity in front of him. It's a very small sample size. It's a very, very, very small sample size. And as the team that drafted him, the Titans, I will say that I was happy with, it was a weird draft. I'm not going to go into what the Titans did and how dumb or not dumb it was at the time. But as a prospect by himself, Malik Willis, where we got him, I think was a 3rd or a 4th round pick. I didn't mind. He does have some skills. He does have a certain spark and uniqueness to him and playmaking ability and change of pace to a lot of guys. He is absolutely dynamic in the run game and has improved as a passer. And being under Matt LaFleur for a couple of years, you would think that would happen. And again, people are trying to find at this point the next Sam Darnold. right? The next Baker Mayfield, if you will, with Sam Darnold being the new archetype, as we talked about last time, of player where maybe it didn't work out with the first team, maybe it didn't even work out with the second team, but he could ultimately be our guy. That's a new thing in the NFL. That's not something that typically happens, not a journey that typically is one that guys take, especially at that position in general, but especially at that position. But again, that could be, in a lot of cases, a development problem in the NFL, whenever you are giving up on guys too early. One weird thing after that, though, I will say that the Dolphins did was trade away immediately Jalen Waddle. So then there was a lot of graphics that were posted of Malik Willis and Jalen Waddle, but then Jalen Waddle gets traded. The Dolphins trading star wide receiver Jalen Waddle to the Broncos. The full trade, Denver receives Waddle and the Dolphins' 4th round pick in this year's draft. Miami receives the Broncos' 1st round pick, 3rd and 4th round picks this year. The Broncos, this is pretty interesting as well. The Broncos attempted to trade for Waddle before November's trade deadline, but couldn't get it done. Denver made it a priority this offseason and finalized the deal. So with that being said, the Dolphins' updated wide receiver room is before the draft, obviously. But still, Tutu Atwell signed in free agency. Jalen Tolbert signed in free agency. Malik Washington, Terrence Marshall Jr., Theo Weiss Jr., Taj Washington, don't even know who that is, AJ Henning. So you just spend $67 million on a brand new quarterback and immediately trade away Jalen Waddle and sign 2 guys that are just guys, Jags as they call them, just another guy. Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert. I mean, is that what you want to go into if you want to go into the season with? Let's see what this guy's got to say. Y'all think the Waddle trade is so bad for Malik, but realistically, nobody cares how well or how bad Malik does this season. We are clearly rebuilding, and with all these picks, we can easily land a solid weapon for him and build this roster back. Real Fins fans will miss Waddle, but should be happy that we are finally doing what we should have been doing for the past 3 years. Yeah, I mean, if the long play is that you got your guy at quarterback and you're not trying to compete necessarily this year, they could be playing a longer-term game. While we have the quarterbacks pulled up, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to another huge name that signed in the last couple of weeks, which would be Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a guy who I was keeping my eye on to see where he went. I thought maybe the Jets, because New York seemed like a good fit for him as far as the market goes. As Greg Rosenthal puts it, although Murray has been streaky as a pro and there are limitations to his game, he's been incredibly productive as a starting QB. The talent is obvious and will provide an immediate upgrade to a number of teams as long as the head coach is also the right match for him. He signed with Minnesota on a 1-year deal, which is a pretty interesting situation given the fact that a big name like him, former number 1 overall pick, wasn't even considered the best QB in this class of free agents. So not only did the team that drafted him number 1 just a few years ago not want to keep him, but then he was considered not even the number 1 QB in this free agent market, with Malik Willis going above him. And so that's a pretty interesting fall from grace for a guy who, again, was the number 1 overall pick and was also drafted in another sport and was kind of on top of the world whenever he got drafted. His deal is a 1-year, $1.3 million veteran minimum deal with the Vikings, which includes a no-tag clause, ensuring that he'll be able to enter free agency in 2027. Murray, 28, made it clear to the Vikings that he wants to explore his market value next year and even spoke to 3 to 5 other teams on Zoom earlier this week to reconnect with coaches that he could play for in the future. So that part is a little weird to me from the Vikings perspective, because I don't fully understand why. I mean, you still would obviously be in that running to sign him, and if he has a good experience there and you guys are able to win this year, he likes playing with Justin Jefferson. Like, yes, you do get an in on that. You do get your foot in the door to potentially sign him next year. Given the fact that you know he's going to be a free agent again. But you also have a guy who is already known for being kind of flighty and distracted, let's just say it that way, who is known for, literally his stats dropping, and they do. It's not like a made-up story. His stats do literally drop after Call of Duty comes out each year. It's insane. His on-the-field stats. He had to have a study clause put in his extension that the Cardinals gave him, because they did extend him and then got rid of him anyway. He has definitely some issues, despite the fact that I do think that on the field he is a lot more talented maybe than people are giving him credit for, ironically. Like, he's kind of flying under the radar from that perspective, talent-wise and name-wise, I think, in this class. But he definitely has his issues, and there's a reason why teams wanted to move on, or why the Cardinals wanted to move on from him. So to immediately be told by him that, listen, I'm going to be exploring my options next year. Unless we come with the best offer, regardless of how this year goes, he's gone. And if the idea is that you bring him in as your franchise QB instead of JJ McCarthy, and you're moving on from JJ McCarthy and you're done with that experiment, then this doesn't really solve that problem, even if it does solve that problem, if that makes sense. Because you got the guy and he's on your team and you had a great year, but you've already been told by him, you already know you're going to have to repeat this process next year. So I don't really understand it from that perspective. But again, on the field, I actually do that he can make quite an impact. This shit right here, though. Oh my God.
Who let this fucking dwarf into my locker room? Please don't hurt me, JJ. Short bitch.
Okay. This is what I was mentioning earlier, though, about Kyler Murray, and this is kind of why on the field it's a little bit interesting to think about the recent, including Tua, who we just talked about, including Kyler Murray in this particular class. We also talked about Sam Darnold, who goes on to be what he is, Baker Mayfield on this list. You got Kyler Murray, who's released, ultimately traded, Ant Richardson benched, Baker Mayfield benched, Tua Tagovailoa benched, Sam Darnold benched, Daniel Jones benched, traded, Justin Fields benched, traded multiple times, Zach Wilson benched, traded multiple times, Trey Lance benched, traded multiple times, Mac Jones benched, traded multiple. The NFL has a QB development problem. These are some of your big name QBs over the last few years. This over here, though, I will say has a lot of validity to it. And hear me out on this, playing QB in the NFL is actually incredibly hard. I would add to that, that is definitely true. 10,000 likes in that comment is crazy. I would also add to that some of these guys, Zach Wilson, I could have seen that coming. Trey Lance had almost no college career at all. He had some tools, though, but never really bought in on him based on his lack of a resume. Mac Jones was surrounded by nothing but NFL talent his entire career, never really bought in on him. Justin Fields was pretty limited coming out as a passer and just never really has improved very much. Speaking of the next Sam Darnold type of guy, I love him going to Kansas City this free agency and sitting behind, well, he's going to start next year, but in general, just being in that organization and around Mahomes. Daniel Jones, again, why was he drafted where he was to begin with? Tua had a lot of limitations. Ant Richardson had a really bad resume small resume coming in and arguably not that good of a resume coming in. So a lot of these guys, I think that was predictable with. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold obviously stick out as not being that way. And Mac Jones is okay. Like, these guys are not franchise quarterbacks, to be fair, yes. At the same time, why you draft Anthony Richardson just to bench him, that's a development thing, in my opinion. Kyler Murray has all the tools to be successful, I think, other than the fact that it's going to be hard to keep him healthy because of his size, but he's one of those guys who can, athletically avoid that a little bit. So anyways, some of these guys, I think will have a Sam Darnold-esque, Baker Mayfield-esque, shining moment later on in their career, will become very successful later on in their career because there are a lot of tools there, and teams do give up on them a little bit too easily. Let's watch this from Chase Daniel, who I think does great breakdowns. I grew up watching him at Missouri, actually. Very much remember his career.
Exactly why Kyler Murray needs to be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback, and he has so much more film and tape than you would imagine. Look at that throw. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, this is, I think, the reason why Kyler Murray can still play. All right, there's 9 seconds left. Let's break this down. 9 seconds left in the first half. They are showing a cover zero defense, meaning, hey, look, we're an empty, so we have 5 wide, no one to block, all right? So to me, it looks like it's man-to-man. There's 6 guys up here. So in Kyler's mind, he's got to be thinking, hey, I got to get a ball out play. I got to get to get the offensive line going that way, all right? So when he catches it, he's like, oh, okay, there's no one coming, all right? There's no one blitzing. And then they just run 5 verticals. This ball has to be complete in the end zone. It's called a trigger situation, meaning you cannot complete this ball in the field of play because they don't have any timeouts. What they're going to do is they're going to run literally, it's very rare to see 5 verticals. It's literally saying, hey, you can go and you just all run into the end zone. So what Kyler does, it's really smart. He picks the single matchup right here in the slot. Look at the outside leverage. Kyler understands the outside leverage. Now, all Kyler has to do and the tight end has to do is just look this safety toward the tight end. That opens up for a one-on-one.
He's going to put it right behind the safety right here in this pocket.
However, You know, when you're throwing it right there, look when the ball's out, when you're throwing it, you have to be aware, because this guy's playing an outside technique of undercutting. So what does he have to do with the ball? He has to throw the ball up and over this guy, which the ball's right there, but then the safety's coming off, so he has to have enough zip on it to get there before him. It's an absolutely perfect football throw, and one of Kyler's best all year. So there he is.
This is going to be a great angle of it from the end zone.
Controlling the line of scrimmage, right? Got to see it. Got to see 21. And I'm going to pause it right here, right? So he's looking at 21. He's just making sure, just go a little bit. And then we talked about how good you have to be to get this ball up and down over this guy, and then also over the safety. And it has to.
That's a ball. That is a ball. He has some pretty unique skills whenever it comes to being able to throw and run. That being said, you know, at his size, that is one of the bigger issues. But moving on, another team that I want to talk about as being a big domino piece. The Ravens in general had some pretty interesting moves. One that went under the radar that I want to talk about real quick, because we talked about Patrick Mahomes doing it, is, oh my God, are they going to trade for Maxx Crosby? Lamar Jackson created $40 million in cap space. Ravens free up an additional $40 million in 2026 cap space by restructuring Lamar Jackson's contract. As I mentioned with the Patrick Mahomes situation, with him doing that, I think it was $43 million for him. This is something that Tom Brady did for a long time, recognizing that the biggest hampering that a team has when it comes to, you know, the biggest handicap that they have when it comes to building their roster from a cap space perspective is the quarterback position. This is why you see teams go all in when they have a rookie quarterback, because they are on the rookie contract of that guy for, you know, 4 or 5 years before they have to pay them so much that they just cannot allocate money appropriately to other places to create a successful roster in a lot of cases. And so you have a scenario where you get into a vicious cycle in some ways, because your quarterback is such an important position. So you got to lock that guy down. And it's so hard to find a guy like that you want to lock him down. But then also you start having to play games with the money to get basically any supporting cast around them at all, especially as that number just keeps going up for quarterbacks. And so for the player to recognize, hey, I want to be successful, my legacy matters, I want team success, and I want to be able to have, you know, people around me that support my play style and, you know, give us the best chance to win, all those things. For them to be able to recognize that in Lamar's case, Patrick Mahomes' case, Tom Brady's case, anybody that does this, particularly the quarterbacks that restructure on purpose to create this cap space, I think it's really, really brilliant, very, very wise, and something that other players, you know, that are in their position now and moving forward should pay attention to. So I will start out with that compliment to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Other than that, though, they basically lost everybody on their team. Every big signing that you would want them to make, even smaller ones like this. Fullback Patrick Ricard, who is a very, very specific type of player who plays in their very specific type of offense. I couldn't think of a place that he would be more useful than in Baltimore, or maybe San Francisco. Apparently New York is building this kind of team as well. But the Ravens run I formation. They have Derrick Henry. They're huge proponents of this position, which is dying in the NFL, which is fullback, and you let one of the best, if not the best one in the NFL go. They also lost Isaiah Likely, which is pretty interesting because he signed with the Giants, as Ricard did. Over to the right, on that last post, it said the New York Ravens. But an interesting point that I made, a buddy of mine mentioned as well, is that John Harbaugh was with the Ravens when they signed an extension for Mark Andrews, and then goes to the Giants and signs the other tight end, who is arguably better, definitely younger, Isaiah Likely, 3 years, $40 million with the Giants. So they lose him as well. They lost a bunch of defensive players. They basically lost everybody that they wanted to lose, or that they, you know, you would want to re-sign generally. And then you have the Maxx Crosby of it all. Maxx Crosby is the number one edge rusher, number one or number two with Trey Hendrickson, who we're going to get back to as well, obviously. And they, well, about halfway through it, this was all that could be said. What the fuck is going on? Because the Ravens signed Maxx Crosby. A couple days went by. He does a physical for them, and all of a sudden, he's not a Raven. The Ravens backed out of the Maxx Crosby deal. He did not pass his physical. The Ravens got all of their picks back. Now, why this is super interesting, among a million different reasons, is that, this is Diana Rossini, who is an insider. After Maxx Crosby underwent testing today at the Ravens facility, Baltimore made the decision as an organization that it could not move forward with the deal based on the results of the medical. Crosby will remain a Raider for now, as other teams can weigh any potential risk that comes with trading for him. Maxx Crosby did not pass it. Yeah, so ultimately, they backed out. They backed out of this deal. They didn't want anything to do with it. They got cold feet. They traded 2 first-round picks. They didn't want to do that. They realized whatever they realized. They used the physical as an excuse. Ultimately, the Ravens did, and their GM said that it hasn't stopped his phone ringing. But you got to think that it's probably not great to have this happen. Especially, you would think that players in particular are going to have an issue with a team that does something like that. Kind of negotiates, not kind of does negotiate, completely finishes a deal. There's a huge period of time before the actual signing of these contracts where basically every deal is completed. Adam Schefter made the joke that on Tuesday free agency didn't start, it actually ended, because basically every deal is already made. And this would be one of them. And on top of that, Las Vegas went on to make decisions. Thank God they didn't trade those picks. I don't know what they would have done if they actually traded the Ravens picks. But, Las Vegas goes on to make a ton of decisions, as does everybody else, with the assumption and under the understanding that Maxx Crosby was off the table. The cap room that they had post Maxx Crosby trade is what they operated with in every other move that they made. The cap room that they didn't have would have been something that the Ravens considered. And just in general, it caused a huge ripple. I mean, there's teams we've been talking about all episode. There are billions of dollars on the line. There's teams that are making tons of moves in the meantime because of this domino that fell. And ultimately, the Ravens back out. And it ends up feeling that the Raiders actually acquired Maxx Crosby, which they didn't, obviously. But now you look at the moves that they made in the meantime while all this was going on. And the Raiders, obviously, they have Mendoza coming in. But now they have Quay Walker. They have Nakobe Dean, Tyree Wilson, Taron Johnson, and Maxx Crosby, and the Raiders look kind of nasty now. And then the Ravens go on and sign Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, which makes no sense because Trey Hendrickson has a core injury. He's coming back from a core injury, and he's older than Maxx Crosby. So we're gonna pretend like we're not gonna sign Maxx Crosby because of the result of a very routine physical. They knew obviously that he had a meniscus cleanup at the end of the year, and they use that as an excuse, and then immediately turn around and sign a guy who is older and has more of an injury concern. So it's total bullshit on the Ravens' part when it comes to that. They're just not telling the truth about why they did it, nor could they. But Trey Hendrickson reaches a 4-year, $112 million contract. Hendrickson stays in the AFC North and now be facing Joe Burrow and the Bengals twice a year, which I didn't actually think about that proponent to it, but Trey Hendrickson is excited about that because if you followed that situation at all, he was beyond over the way that the Bengals treat their players. Another hilarious situation with them where they drafted a guy last year to replace Trey Hendrickson, couldn't even get him signed to his damn rookie deal. So they're a mess in their own right. He gets over to the Ravens. This is what Maxx Crosby, out of his own mouth, had to say about it.
Out and I'm chilling in the hotel. It's kind of late, but I can't sleep. My emotions are everywhere. Raiders making moves. Everything. I couldn't even open my phone. Everything was Raiders. I'm like, damn. This is crazy. But I'm trying to just stay focused. I'm here in Baltimore. This is it. All this shit unravels on Tuesday, and then all of a sudden I'm flying back the next day. Never would have thought in a million years. So it was crazy, bro. It was so much going on. I get back to Vegas 12:30. Little after midnight in Vegas, I got right up, 4:55 the next morning, got my ass in the building, right back to work. I walk back and they're like the fucking Undertaker. Shit happens for a reason. I know exactly who I am. I'm healthy. I'm fucking crushing my rehab. I'm doing what I'm doing. I wasn't supposed to be in Baltimore. And that's it. You know what I mean? I'm meant to be a Raider. It's through my damn core. That Monday night when I got in after I worked.
To the right, it says Maxx Crosby revealed the timeline of his rescinded trade and says no one will ever admit the real truth. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I am where I'm supposed to be. The Ravens flew Maxx Crosby out to Washington, D.C. on Monday, March 9th, and then he had to drive to Baltimore. Crosby reported to the facility on Tuesday morning, didn't meet with Ravens head coach Jesse Minter and GM Eric DaCosta until the end of the day after he had his physical and MRI. I also didn't see EDC for 5 hours. Crosby also said Minter had a blank face. They already fucking knew what they were doing. They had already decided, and they just had to go through the formality at this point. That is crazy. Crosby said the energy was off when he finally met Minter and DaCosta, who informed him that one of the doctors had concerns with his knee and were going to get more opinions. When Crosby went back to the hotel, his agent, CJ LeBoy, told him that they think Baltimore is going to back out of the deal. A member from the Ravens called Crosby and said they were going to get the deal done, but 5 minutes later, Crosby received a call from his agent saying Baltimore had backed out. Crosby flies back to Las Vegas and arrives at 12:30 a.m. on Wednesday. He went to sleep, got up at 4:55 a.m. and went to the Raiders facility to start his knee rehab. Wow. It's crazy what flies over everyone's head is his character. Not once did he say anything negative about the Ravens for any of this. He kept the light on himself without throwing shade. Respect. Crosby's knee has no cartilage, and Raiders tried to get over on the Ravens, and they did their due diligence. Anyone to blame, it's Alex Guerrero, not EDC and the Ravens. Interesting. So this guy's perspective is that the Ravens did their due diligence and said, whoa. You're trying to sell us a damaged piece of property here. I don't know. I would be very interested to know. Very interested to know. Did the Raiders try to get something over on the Ravens, like the guy said, and then they, kick the tires on it and go, whoa, something is not right with this man's knee. This is not what we agreed to. And then they exercised their own right to back out of it? Or was it the other way around? Did the Ravens ultimately negotiate in bad faith, I guess, and pull the rug out from underneath not only Maxx Crosby, but ultimately the Raiders too? I'm not sure. What I will say is that I do think that Maxx Crosby is a better player than Trey Hendrickson, and I think that there are more injury concerns with Trey Hendrickson, and any kind of concerns that you have with Crosby, I think you would have with Trey Hendrickson as well. Trey Hendrickson is very underrated. His production is insane, but so is Maxx Crosby's, and I think that now you're going to have Crosby. You would have had that with him in Baltimore as well, had the Raiders decided to get rid of him. But now you're going to have Maxx Crosby pissed the fuck off, you would think. And the Raiders in general are going to be pretty interesting next year. Obviously, you have Fernando already pretty much there. But anyways, as I said, we have way too many moves to even get to. So I'm just going to start rapid fire flying through these and giving my opinions on them to kind of wrap us up here. We'll take a look at the list where it's at and give some opinions on that as well too. Right off the top, Brandon Aiyuk was released from the 49ers, and I thought that it was interesting to play this, which is TJ Houshmandzadeh, his personal wide receiver coach. Very, very intimate relationship these two are going to have. TJ is a real one. Played for the Bengals for a long time. If you know, you know. But Brandon Aiyuk signed an extension last year and then immediately stopped showing up. Just didn't show up. He was healthy all year. And forego $30 million, as TJ Houshmandzadeh put it right here. And so Brandon Aiyuk is on the market, and even his own coach recommends not signing him.
This topic. T, I was looking forward to doing this show with you today just to hear what you had to say to this question.
Listen, man, I know BA. I haven't talked to him in a while. Know him very well, though, but I haven't spoken with him in a while. What's the question again?
Should any team want Brandon
I knew
Aiyuk?
that was the question. Yeah, I'm answering. Yes, they should want him.
Okay.
But you got to be careful. And I say this, I like BA, but I said this last week about Stephon Diggs, and this normally only happens when a player starts to get older. BA is still really young, fast, quick, explosive. But what he did last year
On TJ Houshmandzadeh just for this.
It's kind of crazy. You got all this guaranteed money. You ain't showing up. You getting fined. And you basically forego, what was it, over $30 million, right? Mm-hmm. Over $30 million? Like, if you're a team and you give him a good contract, is this what you're going to get? Because this is what he has shown us. Signed his deal with the Niners. Bad luck he gets hurt. Don't want that. But it's how he handled everything after that. Yes, he's going to get signed. But if you're a team, you got to structure that contract the right way. You got to make sure that you protect yourself because of what he's shown you to be. You know, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they talking to their people across the NFL, telling them everything that went down and how it occurred. And so, yes, I would want him on my team. I would. But it got to be at the right price. I got to make sure financially that we are protected as a team and organization, because I've never seen anybody do this at so young of an age, got so many years ahead of him. I've never seen this.
1 year, $17 and a sweet onion chicken teriyaki sandwich. Oh, Brandon Aiyuk. Okay, next. Daniel Jones. 2 years, $88 million. $50 million fully guaranteed at signing, $60 million guaranteed for injury. Okay, max value of $100 million, making it the largest 2-year contract in NFL history. He can't keep getting away with this. Bro must have Kirk Cousins' agent. This dude has made a huge bag in this league for little to no accolades to his name. I still don't even know if he's good or not. Over $200 million in career earnings for Daniel Jones. What the this is Daniel Jones, who also got signed over Saquon Barkley directly, like him or Saquon overtaking him. 2 years, $88 million, and he's coming off an ACL tear. I mean, good God, could you be more desperate if you're Indianapolis? My God. Next, Romeo Doubs. Speaking of desperation, Romeo Doubs signing to the Packers for a 4-year, $80 million deal. New England finally lands a wide receiver, which is about the most relaxed way you could possibly say that. And yeah, that's largely accurate. They landed a wide receiver. They certainly did. I'm shocked at the number on that, and I'm shocked that I will be shocked if that's who they go into next season with as their wide receiver one. Their big signing is Romeo Doubs. I would be shocked. The Packers receivers are all kind of like the same, and they're all like B plus type of guys. That was the thing with the Packers, is they have a bunch of B plus receivers, not really a one, especially without Christian Watson, who became obvious that he was the one when he wasn't there at that point. But it took a long time for him to separate, and Christian Watson's not even like a top end wide receiver one, I don't think. So you had a bunch of B plus receivers there. You could have signed any of them to the Patriots, and I would have had a similar reaction. This doesn't really move the needle a ton for me. Another receiver that was traded was DJ Moore to the Bills. Similarly, doesn't really do a whole lot for me. DJ Moore is, I think, a little, I would say, overrated in general. He doesn't have a huge reputation to him in general, but I'm not a huge fan of his game. And I would have liked him a little bit better in a different place. I think if I'm a Bills fan, Josh finally got a receiver. Great trade, great move. We got a receiver in Buffalo. Allen finally got a receiver. Amazing trade. Looks like everybody seems to love this one. It doesn't really do a whole lot for me, I will say. It's better than what they had, certainly, and the Bears will get a second-round pick in exchange for Moore and a fifth-round pick. So, for the Bills, I don't dislike it, but similar to Wan'Dale Robinson with the Titans, similar to Romeo Doubs with the Patriots, I'm not sure that it really fills the hole that you set out to fill. But, look, another receiver, Michael Pittman. The Colts are sending wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. to the Steelers. This deal includes a late-round pick swap. For a late-round pick swap, obviously, they're going to sign him to a new deal as well. That's going to be part of this as well. Alec Pierce ends up staying with the Colts, so they basically went with Alec Pierce over Michael Pittman Jr. Not really in love with the Colts receivers either. This is a lateral move when it comes to Pittman going to the Steelers. I guess, like this guy says, him and DK the Swole's wide receiver duo in the league. There's two really big body receivers that you're going to have in Pittsburgh for whoever their quarterback ends up being, which we still don't know. Either old Kirk Cousins or old Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be able to throw it up. That's for sure. Pretty big number for him as well. And then you got Mike Evans, who goes to the 49ers. 3 years, $60 million is crazy, I think, for him. I love Mike Evans, but I wouldn't think he has more than a year or two left in general. I was kind of surprised that he signed for 3 years at all. But 3 years, $60 million for the 49ers, too? I don't know. It's just seems like a weird fit, but you got like a West Coast type offense. They do run the ball a lot. He's a big body receiver. I don't know. I guess if you look at them losing Juan Jennings, he's like a super-powered Juan Jennings type. So perhaps a good fit, more so than I'm thinking. But one interesting piece that I wanted to point out about this, I'm happy for Mike Evans. Overall, I'm just glad that he got another bag. I'm all cool with it. 100%. I just don't know if I'm a 49ers fan, if I love it or not. But one thing I thought was pretty interesting about it, considering that he left the place that he was at for so long, was this story that he was disgusted by the coaching of Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the final stretch of last season, and it became the tipping point that led to him leaving. Evans reportedly rushed back from injury to help Tampa Bay make a playoff push, but the Buccaneers ultimately missed the postseason after several heartbreaking losses down the stretch, games that many inside the locker room felt like were completely winnable. The frustration reportedly peaked during the Thursday night game versus Atlanta when Tampa Bay allowed a 3rd and 28 conversion that led to the game-losing drive, a moment many players felt highlighted the coaching issues late in the season. Tampa Bay did match the contract offer that the San Francisco 49ers put on the table, but in the end, Evans chose to move on. Pretty interesting. He's going to try to get him a ring in his last couple of years there. Clearly doesn't feel like that can be done in Tampa Bay. Not a great sign for them. Todd Bowles is a weird coach to me. Not one bit about him inspires confidence to me, yet he just keeps getting jobs, keeping jobs. I've never really understood Todd Bowles as a head coach. Whenever you see Baker Mayfield out there, making plays and doing all this, and then you get Todd Bowles up at the podium. There's varying personalities across the league, obviously. But I just don't. Every time I see him out there, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he's the coach for them. So flipping over to this list real quick, we're going to go through some rapid fire ones. We got Kirk Cousins still on the market, Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers are picking from these two legends in their own rights. This one legitimately, and this one just because he makes bags everywhere he goes. Marcus Mariota resigns with the Commanders. We talked about Tua, Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. Okay, I think we're done with that part. Kenneth Walker, one thing we didn't talk about at all. Kenneth Walker III goes to Kansas City. Travis Etienne goes to New Orleans. Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs. I'll touch on very quickly. Kenneth Walker is your typical guy who overperforms in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs or has a really good playoff run, and you could see this coming from a mile away that he was going to get overpaid by somebody. 3-year deal worth up to $45 million with $28.7 guaranteed. I was talking to a friend about this. Kenneth Walker plus Patrick Mahomes plus Rashee Rice. Like, this sounds great. Mahomes is coming back from an injury. He may not even play most of the year next year, so one of those 3 years is already pretty much taken up. They seem to think that they're going to compete next year. I don't understand how they think that with how late in the game, or late in the season, I should say, that Patrick Mahomes had that severe injury. If they're able to keep it afloat using the Kenneth Walker, Justin Fields run game for a few games, perhaps they are able to do that. I mean, God bless. That would be one of the best coaching jobs anybody's ever done, but certainly of Andy Reid's legendary career, if he was able to keep them afloat or make them a contender while Mahomes heals, and then he's able to step back into Kenneth Walker and etc. But yes, on paper it looks good. The interesting thing about Kenneth Walker is that I was a really big fan of him in Seattle. I actually thought he was way undervalued. Like, when he was splitting carries with Zach Charbonnet, I thought that was interesting, to say the least, and I was surprised that he never really broke out. Charbonnet gets hurt. He immediately breaks out for a few games, and now he's the number one guy somewhere else. And so in a way, it's kind of a coming true of what I thought that he could do anyway. In another way, I think that he could be setting himself up to be, or the Chiefs could be setting themselves up to be the classic team that overpays for a few really high profile, really, really good games. Travis Etienne earned his payday, I think, a little bit more over the years than even a Kenneth Walker did, as he slowly but surely got better and became more versatile and really became somebody that the Jaguars could heavily lean on. Etienne has improved as a red zone threat and in catching design passes. He ranked in the top 10 among all players in rushes of 20 and 40 yards last season. And in New Orleans, 4-year, $52 million deal. So 1 year longer than the Kenneth Walker deal. Alvin Kamara's still there, obviously, but he's kind of being phased out, and so he'll be the new RB1 there. Kenneth Gainwell going to the Buccaneers. Bucky Irving fans are not going to be happy about that one. And Bill fans, if you are a Crosby Merritt, what's his first name? Oh, I can't even remember his first name. Coming to the Commanders, he can take some carries away from them as well. Rico Dowdle to the Pittsburgh Steelers is pretty interesting. Tyler Algier to the Cardinals. Bijan Robinson fans everywhere freaked out about that one. Let's see. At receiver, we got Alec Pierce, the number one overall receiver in this class. Interesting. Number 1 and number 2 all both stayed where they were. Alec Pierce and Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed, I thought for sure was going somewhere else, but they ultimately re-signed him. A throwback to the 1970s, Pierce posted a ridiculous 21.8 yards per reception over the past 2 seasons. That's pretty incredible. He's been so effective stretching the field that he just joined Hall of Famer James Lofton with rare production, becoming the second player since 1982 to notch consecutive campaigns with 6 or more receiving touchdowns and an average of 20 plus yards per reception. Okay. 4 years, 114 though. $84 million in guarantees for Alec Pierce is crazy. I'm sorry, that's crazy. By comparison, you got Rashid Shaheed, 3 years, $51 million, which he's a better receiver obviously than Shaheed. And those stats, like what you're saying there, especially at age 26, I don't know. I guess that's kind of crazy. As a Titans fan, I fucking hate the Colts, and I think everything they do is boring and annoying. So whatever. Wan'Dale Robinson caught 185 passes over the last 2 seasons with a variety of QBs. That is true. Really bad quarterback play. His improvement on intermediate to deeper throws shows he can help any offense. Besides the Titans, Juan Jennings is a guy who's still linked to the Titans. Rugged receiver who can block, make contested catches, and occasionally carry an offense. I want that known. Okay. Everyone's favorite instigator. Yeah, Juwan Jennings, obviously from Tennessee. We've talked about him several times about having played him in high school. And so that would be a pretty cool reunion from that standpoint if he ends up in Tennessee. And I wouldn't mind having him plus Wan'Dale, and then maybe if we draft a guy or two. It is a decent receiving core overall. Stephon Diggs, I'll be shocked if he gets signed anywhere, to be honest. Age 32. And then he's got his legal matter that's still going on. Debo, same kind of deal. Looked like his old self in stretch, but Jalen Naylor to the Raiders. Calvin Austin to the Giants. We talked about Isaiah Likely. Kate Otten re-signs with the Buccaneers. That's a big re-signing for them as well. Chig, the Titans lose Chig Okonkwo, which is interesting. We have Gunnar Helm, but I was really counting on Chig to to be a 1-2 with that, and I would not mind drafting Kenyon Sadiq if I am the Titans. 3 years worth up to $30 million. Good for him. Good for him. Charlie Kohler, another guy that the Ravens lost, goes to the Chargers. Darren Waller. Njoku's out there. I didn't realize that. So yeah, free agency. There we have it. We had started with the Seahawks being sold and the Bears moving states. Then we talked about the Titans rebrand and their uniforms and their moves. The Dolphins, how they kind of were the linchpin that created a lot of domino effects with the moves that they made. And we talked about the Ravens and the Maxx Crosby situation. We talked about Kyler Murray, both this year and his potential for becoming a free agent again next year. Then we went through a random handful of names: Brandon Aiyuk, Daniel Jones, Romeo, Doubs, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, and Mike Evans. There's more. There's a million of them. There was a ton of moves. Please leave some feedback below. What would you like to see covered this all season? Would you like to see some NFL history? Would you like to see some projections going into next season, which of course we'll do as well? And yeah, just in general, I appreciate you guys for being here. We're going to jump over to the draft in short order, and we're going to cover that super, super heavily. And obviously, if there's any more trades or any free agent signings that are significant, we will be here to cover them. But the big names are out of the way, and we have now covered them as well. So I appreciate you being here with me today for that. I'm sure that I will find something to put here at the end. But either way, I appreciate you guys as always. Please like and share this video if you liked it. And we are going to get out of here. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.